With quantum work, let me just explain a little bit more about quantum work. Quantum quantum work and even the concept of quantum clearings is actually a contradiction in itself. So it's actually really fun to look at this and to be able to share with you guys like the difference between even the concept of quantum clearings to actually what we really do. So let's just say that quantum is again talking about the element of space and I mean, I'm not reading this from anywhere or doing anything. I'm just literally like just sharing what comes through and you know, seeing what happens. So it's like quantum literally is, you know, an element or a field of space. And again, if you look at the concept of space, it's like, well, does space even really exist when you look at the concept of time and space? But at the end of the day, when you look at the concept of space, then in actual fact, in the quantum, there even isn't a concept of space because it bypasses the concept of time and space. So it's really cool to play in the quantum because there is no boundaries. There's no literally like, it's not a box that you play in. It's everything. The quantum is everything. So even saying that the quantum is a space is actually a contradiction because in fact the quantum is everything. It's everything and everywhere. So when we're playing in the quantum, we're playing in the everything and the everywhere, but also when we're in the everything, then what actually happens is we get access to everything. And that's where we use the quantum, I'll call it the quantum work. Even that isn't really the best phrase, but we call it quantum work because that's where we're playing, right? When we look at quantum clearings or clearing something, it actually, if you look at a clearing, it actually is saying that we're trying to get rid of something or clear it. But in actual fact, when you play in the quantum, everything exists. So are we really clearing something? Well, in actual fact, in this reality, if you look at quantum clearings, it's like, well, maybe we're clearing it, but maybe we're not. It depends on your level of consciousness as to actually what it is. So this is where when we're playing in the quantum, we could literally just call it the quantum and be done with that. And even the quantum, as we say, evolve as quickly as we actually are, you'll start to find that words will start to become obsolete in our vocabulary, especially as we act and live from a different consciousness. A lot of words just will not make sense. And again, we're not making words bad or wrong, good or bad. They just, again, evolve. So when you have a concept, I just want to bring up, let's just say, especially a concept that operates in the same paradigm. So let's just say the concept of, well, black and white, good and bad, whatever else, they all operate on the same paradigm. And so for us to be able to shift consciousness from what this is, because again, if you're operating on this, you're operating on the same paradigm, it's the same frequency and vibration, they're still linked. Even though, let's just say, good may be a different frequency and vibration to bad, it's still linked. And so we still, from a human on a planet perspective, we're still playing on the same swing. We're still on the same swing and we'll be swinging in between good and bad. That's duality. That's just what it's all about. But another experience we can have is, again, a quantum shift or a paradigm shift, where it's like, okay, so let's just move into, and I think I'm going to start to call these quantum shifts rather than quantum clearings, because it's like shifting into another quantum level is literally a new level of consciousness, and allows us to get access to more information. So in actual fact, when we're looking at, say, for example, the good or bad paradigm, and they are concepts that exist in this reality, if we want to actually have a different experience. And let me just share that the way you'll know you're ready for a different experience is because your feelings around the bad or the or even the good, like the good will probably start to feel like just good, really? Can't it be something else? And it can be. So once you start to find it, I think a lot of us are starting to find this when you're playing around with the concept of bad or good, this kind of, even, you know, we're looking at being a good girl or a good person, they're not resonating anymore. And there's a reason for that. It's because we're ready for a paradigm shift. So then it's like, okay, so if we're having a paradigm shift, what do we do with this? And this is where the quantum work comes in. And so quantum work actually allows us to play in the different paradigms, in the different, well, these different paradigms allow us then to have a different concept of reality. And again, this is how this concept came up, is that words of good or bad, when you're in this next paradigm, actually don't mean, these good and bads just don't actually resonate in this next paradigm, which means that we're going to start to bring in, like I'm doing some work in Superhuman, for example, and there's just, I'm like, we've got to create a word for this because we're still humans on a planet. We still need to have something that we can call this, but maybe we don't, because a lot of it thinks, a lot of it's based around feelings. So again, from a telepathic perspective, we're going to be communicating from these feelings and energy. It's going to be communicating through energy, which may not actually even have words to describe certain things. Anyway, getting back to, say, the paradigm of good and bad, if we're wanting to have and play in the quantum, to have that paradigm shift, it's like, okay, so you can see good and bad can kind of be restricting and limited, when we can look at something else. So usually, let's just say, if we want to have a paradigm shift and have a different experience, and let's just say in the quantum, it's like you can just completely eliminate the concept of good and bad. Now, even if you want to actually have another concept that you want to have as to shift into another paradigm, you can do that, because whatever concept you create will then still have a frequency and vibration, which will then allow you to resonate on a certain frequency, which will allow you to have those experiences based around the concepts that you've created. Sometimes, though, we can also not create a concept and have an awareness of the old concept, but then play in what I call the nothing, the neutral, because then going from something to nothing allows us to go to everything, and the everything is the quantum. So it's really fun to play around with all these different concepts, and then also to play around with no concepts, and not create new ones. And that's, again, you know, these discussions that we're having around the quantum, is that, do we really need to be clearing in the quantum? Or do we just need to be playing in the nothing and then see what else wants to come through? And that's what we're really experiencing now as people on this planet, is when we allow ourselves to move into a place where there is no concepts, then you can see, I don't know if you can feel it, but there is more information coming through. And this is a lot of the work we're doing in Superhuman, in my Highly Evolving Beings group. It's like, what? There's this untapped resource that we have access to, which is, it's limited now by the concepts we've created. But when we actually allow ourselves to move into a new way of being from the nothing, let's just say no concepts, then what actually happens is that we then get access to more information, which is outside of the box of this reality. It allows us to, and I don't even like using the word reality because that's still a concept. It kind of, again, that doesn't, the word reality doesn't feel good to me, because it's like, maybe I'll start using the word consciousness, because no one really understands consciousness, and it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what consciousness is apart from what you're experiencing. So what you're experiencing actually has an indication as to what the consciousness is that's actually occurring. So this is where, when you're ready to do, let's just say, the quantum work or the quantum clearings or quantum shifts, it's like, it's playing, you've got to play in the nothing and the no concepts to be able to then move into something else. So if you're experiencing something on this planet in this experience, which may be something to do with, you know, health, relationships, money, careers, success, you know, all these things that are happening. What you can find is that when you start to play in a different quantum, you can't even be in a different quantum because a quantum is everything and everywhere. In a different place, it can't really be a place. What then happens is the consciousness or the reality starts to change once you have a different understanding. It's just an understanding. I think understanding is probably the best word to describe it all, is because understanding really then allows us to have the experiences that we're having without a concept connected to it. It's just what we understand. So say, for example, you know, you're probably listening to me like rambling on here. I do it very well. And then we're talking about these concepts around what I'm saying. And then you may also be thinking about things that are going on in your life, and you know, what your awareness is of this isn't working, or that's not working, or I want to change this, or I want to fix this, or whatever. When you start to play in the quantum, which is, you know, the nothing to the everything, these things that we're struggling with actually start to fall away. And that's the power of the quantum, is it's like, it's only the human thinking that wants to hang on to them. So it's super fun to play in the quantum. Again, if anyone wants to play in the quantum, we do this every week in my Evolving with the Universe Facebook group, which is where I'm talking here. And, you know, you guys can join and have a listen to me. If anyone wants to actually do some quantum work, message me and I will give you all the information. But at the end of the day, it's like, and it probably doesn't make sense to anyone that actually hasn't had the experience of something different to what we're looking at. And I'm just, you know, I look back to my own experiences and of being stuck. And, you know, when you are stuck and you are in a place where it feels really bad, you can't see anything else. It's very, very hard to see anything else when you're in that place. So it's just like this work is a glimmer of light, which is, if this is what I'm having and what I'm experiencing, what else could it be? And to be honest, from the work that I do, it really can be anything. The thing is that we're not making it be anything. It starts to change by itself through observation in the quantum. So it's just like super fun work. Really, really interesting. Again, please just message me. There's so much options to play with in the quantum, because the quantum is the everything. So how long do you have to play in the everything? And then the most exciting part is you get to experience different experiences while being here on a planet which is supposed to be limited and stuck. And not having that experience. Well, you have had it. If you're listening to me, you probably have had that experience and want to change that. And this is the little glimmer of light that we have access to be able to play in something else and to get access to something else, and to have a different understanding about how the world is and how we are, really opens up doors, guys. So if I could just share that much in my little, you know, quantum clearings talk today, that's exactly what it's all about. So and it's all about the work that I do. Is there's something else that wants to come through, these other experiences that we are ready to have as people on this planet, and it's part of our evolution. It's part of our next steps, and we're getting access to it right now. It's not something that's in the future. It's happening right now, and it's very, very exciting. So if you've ever got any questions about it or anything, as you can see, I can talk about it a lot, but it's so much fun to have these conversations, and I'm always open and happy to have these conversations with anyone because it's super cool. Anyway, that's just what wants to be shared today, just mainly I think around concepts and how we can just start to have different experiences and understandings through not having any concepts, and starting to look at what else these things could be, and then playing in the quantum, which is super cool. Anyway, I'll leave that with you. And if you want to continue these conversations, keep joining me every week for these talks, and I'll keep sharing. Take care.